one of my favorite songs. It says beyond me. God has looked beyond me.
Good morning, Shabbat Shalom listeners. Welcome to a new episode of the Hour of Restoration, coming to you live from Amsterdam every Sabbath morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
For your love, you looked beyond me, oh. You looked beyond me, oh. You looked past my sin, my guilt, my shame, and poured your love. You looked beyond me.
I hope that you had a really good week. Let us know how your week was, how you're going to spend this Sabbath. You're very interested in what you're also doing apart from listening to the radio show on the Sabbath days. Know that you can follow us live on our Facebook page, The Hour of Restoration, on our YouTube channel, or also listen to us via Hi Radio.
The one that you have shown mercy. You have shown me mercy, God. You have shown me mercy.
And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. We see a lot of people watching, but we don't see a lot of people subscribing. So don't forget to hit that button.
I'm the little girl, the lost sheep, lost in sin and filth. Unworthy, yet you poured your love on me. I was naked and cold. I need a covering fashioned to your taste. Yes, you have dressed me in your righteousness alone. You look past my sin, my shame, my guilt. You poured your love. You look beyond.
Last week, we started with a new theme. We are all deceived, part 1. We looked at the Israelis or the Ashkenazi Jews, and today we will dive into Apostle Paul. Why is he mentioned amongst the topic or the theme, we are all deceived?
Yes, I'm the one that you have shown mercy. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. I am the one that you have shown mercy.
And of course, we will start today with a nice table talk concerning last week's topic, the Israelis, the Ashkenazis, and afterwards we will dive into the word of wisdom with the minister.
You look beyond me, oh. You look beyond me, oh. You look past my sin, oh. You have poured your love. You look beyond me. You look beyond.
Today is, of course, a day of rest, so we would like to start today with a song called Beyond Me by Yada, and then we will start in a few minutes with the table talk. Enjoy.
You look past all my blood. Hey, look past my sin. Yes, you look beyond me. You look beyond me. You can sing this one. Say I'm the one that you have shown. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. I'm the very one that your love has covered. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. I'm the very one that your love has covered. You have shown me mercy. You have shown me mercy. I'm the one, I'm the You have shown mercy. You have shown me mercy.
So, once again, good morning. Welcome to this beautiful brand new Sabbath day. This is the hour of restoration, and today we will dive into the topic of we are deceived, and then we'll talk about Apostle Paul. But before we do that, we will start with a table talk concerning our last week's topic, which was the Israelis. And I have two of my own sisters in front of me. So we'll start with Sister Talisa. Long time. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
You're doing fine?
Yes.
How has your week been?
Mijn week was wel rustig.
Mhm.
Ja, druk met werk, maar voor de rest wel rustig. Ja,
Okay, so it was a calm week. Just work, the usual, right?
precies. Ja.
And Sister Helena, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing fine. Thank
You're
you.
doing fine. Thank you. How was your week?
My week was, good.
Good as well. Work,
Yeah.
school?
Yeah, school, internship.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's all going well. That's very good
Yeah.
to hear. I'm also doing fine. A little bit the same as you guys, just work and
Yeah.
home. So that was nothing out of the ordinary. So we're glad to be here. And I'm also glad to see everyone here, everyone in the studio. So before we go into the topic, I always have a question, an opening question. I know you find my questions deep, but you know, it lets the brain work. So, before we look at the Israelis, my icebreaker of today is, who will I ask? Helena? My question to you is, what does Elohim mean to you? And the reason why I'm asking that is it's something that I thought about this week. And it is something that has also has been brought forward in messages that we also receive on the Monday, that you should be aware of what he does in your life and how far he has brought you from. But what is also important, and that was something that I was thinking about this week, was it is something to read about him in the scriptures or to hear from him through messages, but what does he personally mean to you?
Yeah. What I would say, that what
Could
Elohim
you
means
speak
to
a little
me
bit in the
is,
mic? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's my comforter, that even though that I may go through things or things may not go as the way I wanted, but like it feels like if I do reach to him or ask for help, that I'm being comforted. I would say that
He's your comforter. Okay, because when you reach out to him or when you need him, he is there for you. And do you have a specific example that maybe comes to mind where you really felt that or experienced that?
I don't know how to explain, but it's always have been that way, that every time like when I'm in doubt or when I'm thinking about things, that it always comes to mind that trust Elohim, he's there for you. So like it's in different situations. So I don't have like one specific situation right now, but
That's something.
different.
That's how you have
Yeah.
seen him in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice to hear.
Yeah.
And Sister Talisa, what does Elohim mean to you?
Elohim is my strength,
Could
my
you speak
power.
a little bit in the mic? Yes, thank you.
Oh ja. Elohim is mijn kracht. Hij, door hem kan ik zeg maar dingen doen. Tenminste, zo zie ik het. Alles wat ik doe, werken, de energie die ik heb, dat komt dan van hem. Zo zie ik dat. Ik zie hem ook als iemand die mij waarschuwt voor bepaalde situaties. Ja. En eigenlijk ook als mijn, een beetje cliché, maar mijn beste vriend. Degene met wie ik alles kan bespreken. Echt open van hart tot hart kan zijn.
That's nice.
Ja, zonder daarvoor veroordeeld te hoeven worden, zeg maar. Ja.
So he's your, well, you said a lot. He's your strength.
My strength.
Your power.
And best friend.
Best
My
friend.
best friend.
Yeah.
And the one who warns me.
And the one who warns you or protects
Yeah.
you in certain situations.
Yes.
But you said that he was also your best friend because you can discuss everything to him, heart to heart. Yeah, I already actually explained, but it's because so many people have this idea of Elohim, but they don't have the experience of Elohim. So they know they hear from him, but what is your encounter? How have you seen him move in your own life? For me, I can't really use one word, but for me, Elohim has always been the one that has protected me and has always been rooting for me to make it. I was thinking yesterday, when I think of where I came from, when I was younger, the situations that I sometimes were in, the things that he maybe warned me from, protected me from, even when I was living in sin, he was still protecting me some way, somehow. And even now in this journey, there are moments where I may feel down or I may feel sad or I don't know what to do, but he always sends something to encourage me and to give me hope. And, sometimes you may disappoint yourself or other people may disappoint you, and you would see that Elohim is always there. He's always rooting for you, for me to make it. And that is something that, that is something that I cannot really explain it in words, but that's really how I've seen him move in my life. But thank you guys for your nice answers. I hope that you at home also will think about what Elohim means to you. And if you would like to share it in the comment section. So we'll now go towards the table talk about last week. So Sister Helena, what was your impression of last week? What stuck to your mind after hearing the message?
Yeah, it was very interesting to know more about like the so-called Jews, because there are like how do you say it? I know that when I was in church, they were always like, we need to pray for Israel need to pray for the Jews. But I didn't understand why they are so being like praised, because you'll never hear them like saying that, okay, let us pray for the Christians or kind of stuff. So I didn't really understand, and I also didn't like understand why they are so like wealthy nation. And because I was also like doing my internship in a Jewish nursing home, and when I was there, I noticed that when I was there, I noticed that the people that were living there, they were not they were just like living just living their life, not practicing
any laws or religion.
Laws, only like the kitchen was kosher, so meat and milk separated, and they were like keeping the Sabbath, but rather next to that, nothing else. So I was like, I didn't understand that. So it was interesting to know like the real facts about the Israelis and what the origin was and everything. So
because that is, I think, what a lot of people experience. They call themselves, right, the chosen people of Elohim, but if you look at them, like, what shows that to us, except the very I don't want to say legalistic, but really the kosher things, maybe, or some of the feast days. And that's it. That's exactly it. But still, we believe that they are the chosen people. And Talisa, how was that for you when you listened to last week's message? What came to mind? What was something that you thought, that I didn't know that?
Veel dingen kwamen me al bekend voor, ook omdat we natuurlijk in onze voorbereiding voor de PowerPoint hiermee bezig moesten zijn. Maar wat me wel bijbleef is dat de dingen die gebeurd zijn, de preacher man die gaf aan van as long as you have blue eyes. Dus zolang zeg maar iemand blauwe ogen heeft, dan wordt dat gezien als een mens. En dat komt best wel hard binnen. Dat is wel de waarheid.
True.
Dus dat is wel iets wat toch wel binnenkwam bij mij.
Yeah. So based on the research that we have to do personally, you already knew a lot of things. But one thing that really stuck to your mind was that when the preacher man said that when you have blue eyes, that is when you're being seen as a human being actually. So everything apart from that is...
Ja, hoe wij gezien worden, zeg maar, Als je kleur hebt. Dat moment dat je kleur hebt, dat je dan zo wordt gezien. Dat moet ik zelf ook black ben.
Yeah, it's hard because we're always being viewed as less than. I had to laugh because last week he made a example, which I also experienced at work, right? You say something and then they're like... they won't take that answer, and then they would literally ask Peter of Maurits or whoever, and then they would listen to that person's answer based on, and I'm sometimes sitting there, I'm like, but I said exactly the same answer to what you were asking me. You don't regard me at all, or you have to always double check with someone else. But when a white person says it, then you just immediately accept it, and it's very hard, Sometimes I read articles or I see things that people are really angry, and I can understand that. But Helena, can you understand that there are some groups that are really trying to fight this system? And
because we are not being heard. It's like, if you're black, you're nothing, and it is frustrating, man. It's echt frustrating. It's like whatever we do, they don't see us, they don't care, and it's always like the higher a black person come, you really need to be careful of the things you say. Like, hoe heet die man? Van die Zwarte Piet gedoe? Die daar staat? Aquasi, his life is...
His life is scattered.
It's scattered, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, if we speak out of emotions, it can be very dangerous for our careers and stuff, So, even in that, we need to be careful. But if they speak out their heart, their mind,
then it's okay. When we do it, we're angry black women. When we do it at work, at school, or whatnot,
so it's very,
then we get that stereotype. So, it is understandable, and I'm therefore also very happy for the teachings that we are getting now. I hope that it does not only give you... knowledge, but also empowers you to know that the scriptures that we have now is a book about us, right? It's a book about us. We have Elohim backing us. We are truly his people. And I hope that that is also some strength that you can find in all of this. Because if you look at the whole situation, it's quite depressing sometimes, the state of black people. So we started a new theme, of course, and it's called We Are Deceived. How? Can you explain to us, Talisa, how everyone is deceived? How are we being deceived?
Ja, waar zal ik beginnen? Gewoon alles wat ze wat ze op tv wijzen, alles wat ze de mensen meegeven. Er zit een bepaalde agenda achter. En dat wordt zeg maar niet geëxposed, zeg maar. En Nederland heeft ook een bepaald systeem dat we... Nou, niet eens per se Nederland. Maar de wereld heeft ook een bepaald systeem dat we constant bezig zijn. Waardoor je niet, zeg maar, echt achter de waarheid kan komen. Je hebt die tijd niet om onderzoek te doen. Dus En als je dan toch, door dat alles heen onderzoek doet... kom je toch achter bepaalde feiten en waarheden. Reflectiemomenten. Waar je jezelf vragen stelt. En tot nieuwe inzichten komt. Volg je nog?
Ja, I follow.
Waardoor je dan erachter komt van... Hé, wacht even. We zijn gewoon deceived.
I've been jacked. They lied to us. Yeah. And it's really bad. I really like something that you said. You said that the system that we live in... actually created it in a way so that we don't have time to do research. We don't have time to read. But if you really take your time to study it, then you will find answers to things and you'll be like, wow, so they lied to us about this. They lied to us about that. Even in the context of, I don't really want to call it religion, or in the context of faith. How many books, the errors that are sometimes in, sometimes the stories of the origin, the things that we deem to be part of the faith and are completely not, maybe feast days, the laws, everything is upside down. So my question then to you, Helena, is how can you protect yourself from being deceived, or what can you do to not fall into that trap? Because unfortunately we're all part of it.
Ik kan net zeggen, ja. Yeah, we are in the trap, but I think, the things you can do to like come out of the trap, or like to manage it, let me say it like that, because hoe je het ook weet of verkeerd, we wonen toch allemaal in de westerse wereld, dus het zou wel lastig zijn, maar ik denk, it starts by you realizing that something is wrong, and that you want to find out what is wrong, and then starting by doing the research, but also like by doing research you also need to like filter the information, because there's a lot of information
and a lot of misinformation
and a lot of misinformation. But I think it starts by you realizing that, hey, there is something wrong. And I think that vanaf daar je dan wel stappen kan maken om voor jezelf wel te filteren van, hey, wat kan ik nemen? Wat,
And how do you realize that something is wrong?
Yeah,
because we can say you have to do research, but there's something that has to trigger you to do research.
Ja, dus wat is de trigger? Ja, ik denk dat bij iedereen wel anders zou kunnen zijn. Omdat, for me, it was like, because I had a group, but I can understand that someone who is not like in our mates or something, but maybe through a teaching, maybe through something they saw or something they read, that can be a trigger. So triggers can be various ways.
Yeah, that is true. And I remember I almost asked everyone here like when they started their journey or this, and literally everyone's answers, we saw something in the church, it didn't make sense. That was literally everyone's answer. Mine as well. Asking so many critical questions, not receiving answers. Certain things just didn't make sense. And I truly believe that is also the work of Elohim, because how is it possible that the entire church goes into and believes into something, but there's one or two individuals that are like, this doesn't add up. So I really believe that that's also the work of Elohim. So going back to the topic, Talisa, why does the world believe that the Ashkenazis are the chosen people?
Zo. Het is eigenlijk niet eens zo moeilijk. Dat wordt gezegd. Het wordt gewezen. Het wordt door de media ondersteund dat hun, zeg maar, de chosen people zijn. En ook omdat ze in Israël wonen en het volk Israël wordt genoemd in de Bijbel. Dus dan denken mensen logisch van, dat zijn de mensen waar het over gaat als er gesproken wordt over Israël. Maar Israël is geen land. Israël is een gekozen volk. Dus we're all deceived.
We're all deceived. Yeah. And you're really right on the fact that it's also what the media and the world shows us who the people are. You said something very crucial, that Israel is a people. It's not a place, or the place that we now call Israel. And Helena, why do you believe that? Do you have anything else to add to what Sister Talisa said? Why do you think that people or the world believe that the Ashkenazis are the chosen people?
What she said. And also, het wordt gewoon echt daar laten zien. En like also because the looks like they have portrayed, and also like because they are keeping like the Sabbath, they are eating kosher, that like those things. I don't really think that the Israelites used to do. So yeah.
And is it something that the Israelites did? Like if you compare and contrast.
Ja, kijk, natuurlijk de Sabbat wel. But even the Sabbath, the way they keep it is like very, very like extreme. Like no electricity, no nothing. En dat kan ik me wel nog herinneren van de nursing home. But no, because they also have like their own kind of Bible, or the Torah, and they have their own laws also written.
The Talmud, and the Mishnah.
Talmud, dat bedoelde ik. So no, it's not
and is that something we can find in the Scriptures also? No. So there are so many things actually that are quite questionable about these people, yet we still believe that they are the chosen people. And my question again to you, Helena, is there's so much evidence, yet we don't want to believe that the chosen people are black or are the Negroes. Why is that?
Yeah, because everything that's black is wrong. Everything that's black. No, that's not. I don't believe that, of course, but it have been. We have said it a lot of times. It have been rooted in our minds since we were little, generation to generation to generation until this day. That, of course, but now we are waking up. We are a lot of black people are just coming to their. Dat is echt een census. It's toch wel zo.
This coming back to the census.
To census. And it's not easy for everyone to like change your mindset like in something that you believe and then changing in it like okay, now I need to accept it. It takes time. So but there is hope for us.
It's there is hope indeed.
Yeah, there is. So
and this phenomenon that we have heard of, we have mentioned it oftentimes, is called cognitive dissonance. When you receive information that challenges your beliefs to the extent that you just reject the information. But the fact that that happens in even our own brains, amongst our own people, tells us to the extent to which we have been brainwashed to not believe the scriptures. It's literally take some of the scriptures, compare with the people, and then you can see who fits the description and who doesn't. And the current day Israelis, it doesn't match up, yet we don't believe. Yes?
Ja, sorry. Nee, ik vind het heel mooi wat jullie zeggen, maar er is toch een, hoe leg ik dat uit? Een manier van feiten bewijzen. En dus laten we zeggen, als je met feiten komt, bepaalde feiten komt, dan weten mensen gewoon van, ik kan daar niet omheen. Maar waarom als het over de black people gaat, of tenminste over het geloof waar we nu over praten, wil men het dan toch niet geloven? Dat was eigenlijk ook waar je naartoe wilde, toch? Als ik het goed heb.
Ja.
En ik denk dat dat ook te maken heeft met profetieën. Weet je, profetie dat zal gebeuren. En de profetie dat er ook weer mensen zullen opstaan. En de profetie dat er gezegd wordt van de weg is breed, maar bewandel de smalle weg. Dus je kan het zeg maar zien hedendaags, dat veel mensen geloven in een bepaald systeem en er zijn een paar die maar zeg maar echt, die met die feiten komen. Ga je bedoel?
Ja. Dus, completely true. Because indeed prophecy is also working with what we are experiencing, because we would forget our heritage, where we come from. We would forget the laws. That's also why Elohim oftentimes reminds us to remember the laws, but unfortunately we were disobedient, which caused us to now we're in this situation. So that is a good one. Prophecy is really, really at work. And Helena, why do you think that this is not preached in the assemblies?
Because most of the people that are preaching have gone to Bible school, and Bible schools don't talk about don't talk about this.
Bible cemeteries.
And they are being taught by them. Om daarvan af te wijken als prediker, you need to do, as a preacher man, you need to also like do your own research besides the things that you have learned of the Bible school, and to come out of that is also like another process. So I think that has also effect on the assemblies and on the people that are going to church.
And you spoke about the Bible. I want to say seminaries, but I hear cemeteries in my head because that's what the minister often says. But you spoke that is where we are being taught, or that's where most pastors,
not everyone, I think,
get their teaching from. How is it then possible that, because there are quite some pastors or preachers now
they're
finding
also,
out
the truth.
I
also have seen that. So that's why I was saying that there is hope for us. We are getting there, and slowly. But yeah.
Is this also a matter of doing research, or is this also part of prophecy? What is happening now?
I think both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
both of what Talisa said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That one by one, or the dry bones would arise, and that we would come back to our sense, and we would remember once more. And Sister Talisa, my question then to you is, it is something that the minister said in the message. If you don't know, Helene, you can answer as well. He said, Israelis and Israelites are not the same. Can you explain?
Hoe ga ik dit uitleggen? Even kijken, het was natuurlijk in het Engels.
Mm-hmm.
Hoe leg ik dit uit? Nou, ik ga het gewoon proberen.
Mm-hmm.
Je hebt eigenlijk een beetje wat ik net zei. Israël. Ik denk niet dat ik het kan uitleggen.
Helena, do you know a little?
Yeah, I think I
Just
can remember
try.
a bit what he said, but like the Israelis are the Jews we see now right now, and they have like taken some of the laws of the Israelites, so the real chosen people, and have formed it into their like a new religion.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like study who the Hebrew Israelites are, you will you will notice that they are not the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And also the topic of the Hebrews, we have also like touched it a lot on the radio, but that speaks about the chosen people of Elohim, so the black people, where they come from, and like the the laws, and also the prophecies and the curses that has to do with the Israelites. You can also like, it matches.
Mm-hmm. It matches.
Yeah, it matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so based on the curses, the things that we're going through now, based on also what the sister said about you have the nation of Israel and you have a chosen people called Israel, because it seems like these terms, Israelis and Israelites, are being mixed. But can you mix these two?
Nee, hij richtte zich ook op dat stukje van ik wil naar Engels gaan, maar dat klopt niet.
You can explain it in Dutch, no problem.
Je hebt zeg maar Israël, de Jew, en Israël, het gekozen volk. En er is gewoon een verschil met Israël. Ze noemen zeg maar de mensen die in Israël wonen een Israëliet. Maar de Israëliet die bedoeld wordt in de Bijbel is zeg maar de gekozen volk. Dat is zeg maar wat hij naar voren tenminste probeerde te halen.
So that the modern day people of the nation of Israel are being called the Israelites, but when you compare it to what is in the scriptures, then you would see that
het niet over hun gaat.
It's not about them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And you also, thank you for your answers. There's no wrong or right answer, but you elaborate on what the minister of course said. Yeah.
Ja, en het ging volgens mij nog een stukje verder, dat het woord Jood, hun worden zeg maar Joden genoemd, maar hun zijn ook niet de ware Joden. Want als je zeg maar teruggaat, dan, en in de bewijsstukken die hij toen bewezen had, dan zie je dat de Joden toen der tijd zwart waren. Hun zijn nooit eigenlijk een Jood geweest. Dat is zeg maar hun toegeëigend, net als de taal. Dat van het Hebreeuwse, toch? Dat was niet eens, tenminste, dat is niet eens een taal dat gesproken werd, heb ik begrepen. Maar gewoon iets wat hun hebben toegeëigend, maar wat eigenlijk nooit van hun was. Waardoor men dus nu denkt dat hun de Israëlieten zijn en de ware Joden.
Yeah, so they really took over the identity of the true Israelites. But also what the minister said, it was a very strong evidence that I think he found a source that also said that it's wrong to call like a modern day Jew like an Israelite and vice versa, because it's not the same at all. And there's so many sources that also tell us, especially from 16th, 15th century, that the Jews back then were black or swarty, dark skin. Yet these people are white nowadays. So okay, for someone who hears this for the first time, right? The person may think, okay, what happened?
What happened?
What happened? Like in history or in time that they first started out black, then out of the blue, they are now white. Yes, they took on the traditions. Yes, they took on some of the practices and the book. But what happened exactly for them to suddenly change color?
Ja, onderzoek doen. Tenminste, ik ben daar zelf nog wel mee bezig hoor.
Mm-hmm.
Dus
So
ik kan
you
het niet
know.
zo allemaal zo voor je
Yeah.
vertellen hoor.
Talisa, I see you thinking.
Ja, ik ben op zoek naar de vraag, het begrijpen van de vraag. Wat
Hoe komt het dat ze
Back then they were black. Now
wit
they're
zijn?
white, or a different people that take on that identity. What happened in time that was able to happen?
Oh, wat er gebeurt. Ik dacht
Ja.
even dat je bedoelde van waarom ze dat zeggen.
Mm-mm.
Oké. Nou, wat er gebeurd is, eerlijk gezegd, ja, dat weet ik niet. Ik denk echt dat stukje dat ja, waar we over praten, die hele agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Alles is van ons weggenomen.
Mhm.
Identiteit, alles, religie. En ja, ook dat stukje dan.
Mm-hmm.
Ja, hoe noem je dat eigenlijk? Ook zelfs de kleur, de bewijs van de kleur.
Mm-hmm.
Dus dat is het enige wat ik,
Yeah.
ja.
I ask it because it's a very difficult question. I was thinking about it myself yesterday, and I was like, okay, wait.
Yeah, but this
I
is
need to
so-
do further research because
Yeah.
that question alone, yes, you
Yeah.
can take on someone's identity, right?
Mhm.
But what happened for
yeah.
that to be able to happen? Like, and I'm still searching for that as well, because the message of last week took really the Black Israelites, or the true people, and compared it to the Israelis then right now. But that question for me was personally not answered in between.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly happened? I do know that during the Middle Ages, for example, Europe was flourishing under the Jews. A lot of kings, queens, royalty, whatnot came from these black Jews. And then there's also something that happens then for them suddenly to be wiped out, and then all the kings, queens, whatever has been turned white.
Right, yeah.
So I think that is exactly also the time frame in which something happened with the identity switch. But if you know, listener, you can
us
also
know.
let us know in the comments section what the answer is to this question. So moving on, you guys got the question right?
Nee,
No?
ik zat te bedenken van, het zou ook niet kloppen. Als je wil dat men gelooft dat de Joden, zeg maar, het zijn, dan moet je wel kunnen bewijzen dat waar het verhaal over gaat, over white people gaat. Begrijp je wat ik bedoel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dus, ja.
Interesting question.
Ja.
yeah.
Dus what happened, dat stukje, gewoon een stukje deceive, of ja, hoe zeg je
The
dat in het Nederlands
deception.
eigenlijk? Misleiding.
Misleiding,
Ja.
yeah.
Dat is gebeurd. Ja.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving on, we're now going to talk about we are deceived again, and then about Apostle Paul. Why would we link Apostle
Yeah,
Paul
good-
to
good-
being
good question.
deceived? Sister Helena.
Yeah, that's a good question, but because we hear a lot like Paul said this or Paul said that, because he gave a lot of advices, I think, in his teachings or in his sayings in the Bible, and I think that a lot of people, because the way he like spoke, it's not very, het is niet iets wat je heel snel kan begrijpen, vind ik per se hoor. En ik denk dat mensen heel veel context daar zelf aan hebben gebracht, waardoor nu gewoon zijn boodschappen eigenlijk gewoon worden gevormd als hoe mensen het zelf begrijpen. Maar wat het echt is of wat het echt betekent, denk ik niet echt duidelijk is voor de meeste mensen. Ik weet niet wat ik zo net heb gezegd.
Yeah,
maar
no. Trust yourself. You're giving good answers. And Sister Talisa, why do you think Apostle Paul, we being deceived, how does that link?
Ja, hij was natuurlijk een belangrijk persoon. Hij bracht het woord.
Mm-hmm.
Dus als hij wat zegt, dan werd dat meteen geloofd. En nu ook natuurlijk, maar er is een... you have to distinguish. Je moet onderscheiden, zeg maar, wat zijn mening is en wat, zeg maar, het woord van Elohim is. En vandaag de dag, ik geloof ook dat mensen het doen voor hun eigen gewin, hoor. Om bepaalde dingen niet te hoeven doen. Dus in dat stukje denk ik dat je... En het is makkelijk. Je kan gewoon zeggen, Paul heeft het gezegd. Of Paulus heeft het gezegd.
Ja.
Dan gaan mensen meteen naar mee. Ik hoef de Sabbat niet te houden in mijn kerk. Want Paulus heeft gezegd, het is toch slechts een schaduw van wat komen. Weet je, dus ja... op die manier zijn we, zeg maar... kan je mensen heel gauw in misleiding brengen. Ja, met de woorden van... zo'n belangrijk persoon.
Exactly.
Gezonden door Elohim.
Yeah. So what I hear from both of you is that Apostle Paul, I can't even call it teachings, like what is being told about him in the scripture, the things that he said is often taken out of context and then applied to a lot of time people's own benefits, because then they find a way out to not keep the law, while Paul was someone that kept the law, right? And also a good one that I heard was that he gives advice or things that he would maybe personally do or say, and then he also speaks about the law. And it's very difficult sometimes to distinguish that in the scriptures. You see, sometimes I speak as a man, then he may say that, and then sometimes he then starts talking about the law, and it's often intertwined, and if you're not sharp, or you don't see that, you would think that what he is saying is also a law, or he's maybe doing away with a certain law whilst he's not doing so. And also note that he was in contact with a lot of people. So I wouldn't say he would adjust to the people around him, but he also knew how to approach each and every group in a way for them to also believe. So there are certain things that he may do or do not, for us or for people that read, may not make sense. But he also did that because he was maybe speaking to a certain group of people. You have to approach them differently, but that doesn't mean that the message will change. And I think that is something that we will find out in the word of wisdom. So this was the table talk. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sister Talisa. Thank you, Helena. I really enjoyed the conversation. So in a few short minutes, we will go over to the word of wisdom, and then we will look at why we are deceived, Apostle Paul.
Vous savez, la plus grande erreur que l'homme peut faire, c'est chercher à dépendre de lui-même. La plus grande erreur que l'homme peut faire, c'est chercher à se détacher de Dieu. La plus grande erreur que l'homme peut faire, c'est chercher à être indépendant de Dieu. Alors je voudrais ce soir que des assoiffés de Dieu puissent ouvrir leur cœur à Dieu et lui dire: Seigneur, règne dans ma vie. Nous voulons que l'Esprit de Dieu règne. Vous savez, le monde a des désirs. Le monde nous présente parfois des choses. Le monde peut parfois même aveugler. Mais ce n'est que par l'Esprit de Dieu que nous voyons la nature véritable des choses qui se présentent devant nous. Alléluia. Alors je voudrais que pendant ce temps, que ce chant soit une prière où tu dis à Dieu: Seigneur, règne dans ma vie. Seigneur, domine mon être. Domine les désirs de ma chair. Parce que ce n'est que par toi que je peux les dominer. Seigneur, règne dans ma vie. Que je ne sois pas seulement fort dans les dons spirituels, que je ne sois pas seulement fort en puissance, mais que je reflète Jésus. Que ma vie reflète Jésus, que mon comportement reflète Jésus, que mon caractère reflète Jésus, que ma façon de vivre reflète Jésus. Règne dans ma vie. Ma vie a plusieurs domaines. Règne dans ma vie, règne dans mon travail, règne dans mes activités, règne dans ma santé. Je te prie, Seigneur, de régner. Parce que je sais que quand toi tu règnes, tu t'imposes. Quand toi tu règnes, c'est l'atmosphère de ta présence qui caractérise ma vie. Je te prie, Seigneur, de régner. Viens, précieux ami. Ce n'est qu'avec toi que nous sommes capables de faire les exploits. Ce n'est qu'avec toi que nous sommes capables de faire la différence. Esprit de Dieu règne, règne, dans ma vie, esprit règne, esprit de Dieu règne, règne, dans ma vie, esprit règne. Illumine les yeux de mon cœur. Esprit de Dieu règne, règne. Atteins tout ce que tu poursuis en moi. Esprit de Dieu règne, règne. Apprends-moi les choses d'en haut. Esprit de Dieu règne, 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 règne. Les yeux de mon cœur, de mon cœur. Esprit de Dieu règne. Esprit de Dieu règne. Est-ce que tu peux faire ce chant de la prière ce soir? Dans ma vie, esprit de Dieu, esprit de Dieu. Esprit de Dieu règne. Dans ma vie, esprit règne. Esprit de Dieu, esprit de Dieu. Esprit de Dieu règne. Élève ta voix, fais ce chant, fais de ce chant de la prière ce soir. Sans toi, je ne peux rien. Esprit de Dieu règne. Dans ma vie, esprit règne. Esprit de Dieu, esprit de Dieu. Oui, le monde me présente des choses. Oui, il y a des choses que le monde me présente. Est-ce que quelqu'un peut monter avec ce chant ce soir? Esprit de Dieu règne, esprit de Dieu règne. Dans ma vie, esprit règne. J'ai soif de toi, je te veux ce soir. Mes impossibilités. Y a-t-il un cœur qui peut chanter ce soir? Esprit de Dieu, esprit de Dieu. Monte avec moi, monte avec moi, monte avec moi. Oui, dans ma vie, dans ma vie.
Yes, shalom, shalom unto all of our viewers, listeners, wheresoever you may be found. To all of those that are tuned in now and those that will catch up at a later moment, we rise and give honor and we thank Elohim once again for this opportunity that he has given unto us. We thank him for his protection that he has seen us through from the day that we were born, even up until this very precise moment. Many people have passed away, many have died, others are still alive, but in less fortunate circumstances. But as for us and our loved ones, our families, Elohim has been merciful unto us, having protected us, kept us in good health, healed us of diseases and sicknesses, has provided us with shelter, not only us but our fathers, our mothers, our loved ones. And these are all things that we oftentimes take for granted, but Elohim has been good and we are extremely grateful unto him for that. And as it is another day, we are here to do what we have to do, which is to share and bring the world into remembrance of the glad tidings of Elohim. As for life in itself, there's not too much action nowadays anymore. Sometimes things may seem a bit boring. There is a word for it called monotony. Life is monotonous, meaning you awake, you sleep, you eat, and then it goes into repeat and into a cycle again. The same as with the words and the things which we try to share. If you pay close attention, you will see that we are recycling the messages. It is the same as with the Bible. If you really sit down and begin to consider all the stories, it is one story being told in different ways, so that with every iteration of the story, he may catch a different target group. The Apostle Peter even said that, knowing that once upon a day we will have to put off this tabernacle, this body of flesh, we will not be ignorant in that we will bring you into remembrance of the faith which was once, as he said, common to the saints. But the faith that was once common to the saints is no longer common. Back in those days when Cain was smitten with the sickness of leprosy, he said, Elohim, what have you done to me? Because all of the people in the world up until this point are black. But lo and behold, you have made me white. I've become a vagabond, meaning I have no place or no home anymore, because what is a white person doing in Africa? The sun, the wind, the elements themselves will reject me. And if someone sees me, they will kill me because I am an anomaly. And Elohim said, even though you are, I will protect you still. Once upon a time, the whole world was black, and it was inconceivable to see a white person walking around. That is why many of our black nationalists say that the white race is not indigenous to any place on the earth, because wheresoever he lives, it was once owned by blacks. But now in our contemporary time, we are now living in a reverse world. We are living in a bizarre world where it has become inconceivable to many to think that something positive can come from Negroes. To the point where if you tell someone, hey, what would you do if you would see the Messiah come in his form? And instead of the blue-eyed, long blonde hair boy, you see a jet black Negro with a stuffed beard and nappy hair. Would you still serve him? And for many people, this is an abomination. They're like, no, the Messiah could not have been black. No, the Jews, the people of the Bible, they weren't black. They were olive skinned. And then when you ask them, define olive skinned, because if we look into the nature, we only see two types of olives. We see green olives and we see black olives. Now you yourself know there is no human being that is green. So when they say the Hebrews were olive skinned, what color olive were they referring to? If it were black olives, then why are we not seeing black Jews in Israel, but we are seeing white ones? So you see, it's a play on words. It's a play on words. And now we are in a full-time mission of simply revisiting all the lies. So it's a never-finishing, never-ending task. That's why we have to recycle the message, because it's quite as we say, self-ingenomen. It's quite brave to come up with a topic called "Everybody's Deceived." Sometimes you're at home, you're like, maar wie denken deze mensen dat ze zijn eigenlijk? Who do these people think they are? So like, everybody's deceived. So who says that they are not deceived? Which is a good question. That's why we have never told anyone that we hold the truth ransom. We keep on saying that what we consider to be the truth today, we may realize tomorrow that we also were still in deception. So it is learn, relearn, reject the false narrative, keep on learning, keep on learning. Because it's a never-ending story. And this topic of everybody deceived, I remember it was last year, I think we had like 10 weeks, 10 solid weeks of talking about the deception in Christianity. 10 weeks. Visiting it by topic, by topic, by topic, by topic, by topic. And we dealt with so many things and we're still not done. And this book that we have in our hands called the Bible, there are some statements we can make, others which may be quite difficult for people to understand when we like, in the Bible there is found the truth, but in the Bible there's also found lies. And when you tell that to someone, they're like, who can that? It's the truth. In the Bible there is found the 100% inspiration of Elohim. In the Bible there is found the 100% inspiration of men. In the Bible there is found the commandments of Elohim which are to be kept. But in the Bible there are also found stories told which are not accurate. And that is what makes it is so dangerous. One of the most dangerous journeys you can do, or you can start, or you can embark on, is the journey of seeking Elohim. Because it is not something that is done by intellect alone, nor is it something that is done by spirit alone. it's a fine balance where you have to be guided, but at the same time also you have to apply common sense, you have to apply logic. So it's a very delicate and fine balance. How do you pick out? How do you discern? It's difficult, and we agree. And that is why the man in question that we will deal with today, Apostle Shaul, he's both misrepresented and misquoted, and one of the most controversial person in the Bible, the most infamous of all the apostles. I would say the saddest of all the apostles. Wheresoever he is, he must be sighing every day when people misquote him. And they must ask him every day, "Fan, why don't say that, man?" So we will look at some of the, where it went wrong, how we ought to position ourselves when dealing with his letters, and also how to, look at some of the quotes that the Christians like to use and abuse. Because if you would take things from face value, you would say that Shaul is schizophrenic. Meaning you would say that Shaul has two identities, or he's just schizophrenic. Because he says this and then he says this. He says this and then he says this. He says this but then he does this. So you would say, like, what is wrong with this guy? But that is simply because I think he understood too much. And he just assumed that what is logical for him is logical for the rest. But when you read some of his books, it's so difficult. But then again, when you read the book and you understand the context from which he's speaking from, it makes a bit more sense. So when it comes to this person of Shaul, it is inspiration that you need, but I think you also need to be a bit aware of the context from which he's coming from. You need to be aware of the historical context from which he's coming from. You need to be aware of all these things so that you can put his text in proper context. So we will try to do that today if he helps us. So to start, disclaimer.
By no means is this teaching meant to credit or discredit Apostle Shaul. It is not up to me to credit or discredit a biblical character. The only thing we can do is use the Scriptures, the Old Testament, as a foundation and then see rather the Scriptures justify or condemn a character. As a rule of thumb, we should remember that the New Testament has no bearing or jurisdiction without the Old Testament.
And this is something which must be made clear. You cannot go around establishing doctrine based on New Testament alone. There is no doctrine based on New Testament alone. The New Testament which simply came to highlight or further explain what already has been placed in the ground text, which is the Torah or the Tanakh. So the New Testament alone should not be enough evidence for you to base a church doctrine on. Go ahead.
The New Testament and epistles can only confirm or elaborate something that is already found in the Old Testament.
Correct.
Meaning that there is no doctrine that can be established based on the New Testament alone.
Correct.
Doctrine must be established line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little.
Isaiah 8 and 9.
To the law and to the testimony.
If
they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them.
Isaiah 28 and 9.
whom shall he teach knowledge?
Whom will Elohim allow to take on knowledge?
And whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
And whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
Them that are weaned from the milk.
Those that are weaned from the milk, meaning you cannot understand doctrine if you are still a babe in your spiritual walk with Elohim. It will be difficult to you. Go ahead.
Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
And drawn from the breast.
For precept must be upon precept.
Now he's telling you how doctrine is established. Precept, meaning law,
must be
upon
precept.
Upon law, meaning what Isaiah says as a law must be confirmed by Jeremiah as a law. And the greatness of Elohim is that these prophets, not all of them lived at the same time and moment in space. Therefore, you could see the inspiration coming from Elohim in that what Moses said was confirmed by Isaiah. What Isaiah said was confirmed by Jeremiah, even though they were living away from each other. So you will see that Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, they don't contradict each other. So you establish doctrine by seeing that there is a line, there is a red herring from what the prophet said, and it is being established by all the other prophets. So doctrine must be established line upon line. You take some from Exodus, you take some from Leviticus, you take some from Jeremiah, line upon line, precept upon precept. Go ahead.
Here a little, and
here
there
a little, and there a little. Some from the old, some from the new. So if you then see that there is coherence between line upon line, between what Isaiah said, what the other prophets said, then you can establish a doctrine. But if you see that someone makes a statement that is not supported by the Old Testament, then know that that is where, as we say, these people have schumelt. Daar hebben ze geschummeld. Because there are many interjections placed in the Bible by strange people who did not have the Bible as their real natural book. They stole the book, inserted some of their ideologies, and then gave it back to us. So the only houvast, as they say in Dutch, that we have is to make sure that it is being supported all across the book. So when we notice that there is a discrepancy in the storyline, that is why we have to be very careful and be like, this is where they inserted some of their ideologies. That is the only way you can check yourself. So this really must be made clear. Ephesians 2:20.
And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets,
And Yeshua HaMashiach,
himself being the chief cornerstone.
so if Shaul or Peter or any other apostle comes and establishes a teaching which is new and it has no bearing with the Old Testament, guess what you have to do? Don't follow it. Don't follow it. Do not follow it. This is what you have to keep in mind. So, that was the disclaimer. We are continuing. Who was Apostle Shaul of Tarsis? We have to understand the context from where he's coming from. Acts 22:25.
And as they bound him with thongs, Shaul said unto the centurion that stood by,
And as the Roman centurion bound him with feathers, with chains, Shaul said to the Roman centurion,
Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman?
Is it
lawful
for you
to scourge a man that is a Roman,
to beat up a Roman citizen
and uncondemned?
and uncondemned?
When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman.
So Shaul was a what?
This man is a Roman.
To come back to the question that Sister Brittany just asked the sisters, Fan, what is the difference between an Israeli and an ancient Israelite? An Israeli simply means someone who has the citizenship of the nation of Israel. So if you have that citizenship, you are an Israeli. Just like I have a Dutch passport, I have the citizenship of a Dutch. So on paper, I am a Dutch. But naturally speaking, I am from the Congos. That is the difference. This man Shaul was born in Italy, was born in Tarsis. And because that was under the rule of the Romans, he had a Roman citizenship. And you must understand that. You must understand that. Continue reading.
Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman?
And he said,
Yea.
Yet in Philippians 3 and 4, listen to what he says there.
Though I might also have confidence in the flesh.
He's saying, though I may have boldness in the flesh, in my nationality.
If any other man thinks that he has whereof he might trust in the flesh.
If people think that only they have the right to boast in their nationality.
I the more.
Listen, I also have the right. Why?
Circumcised the 8th day.
I, Shaul, was circumcised.
The 8th day.
On the 8th day.
Of the stock of Israel.
I am a Roman.
I am of the stock of Israel.
I am of the stock
of Israel.
Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Benjamin.
Of the tribe
of Benjamin.
So you see, if you don't understand these dynamics, it will mess you up. Why does he say he's a Roman and then he says I'm an Israelite? Because it is possible. Why? Because you must be aware of the historical context that when Shaul was born, in the days of the Messiah, in the days of Cephas, many of the Hebrews were already scattered. Many of them were already scattered. All over Israel, all over the Roman states, all everywhere where Rome had power, many of the Israelites were already scattered. And because they were scattered there, they had the citizenship of the place where they were born at that time. But at the same time, their fathers, because their fathers were from Israel, they were also Hebrews, or they were also Israelites. So Shaul had the Roman citizenship, but he was of the tribe of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin. You have to understand that. You really must understand that. So continuing.
Of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, an Hebrew of the Hebrews.
He's saying, if there are Hebrews amongst us, I am a Hebrew of all of the Hebrews. Meaning, he was pure blood. His father was not mixed. His mother was not mixed. That's why he said, I am a Hebrew amongst the Hebrews. Because there were some Hebrews there that were, they had the limonade effect. So they had Hebrew, and then there was mingling. But he said, I am a Hebrew amongst the Hebrews. So he was pure-blooded. He was pure-blooded. So the next slide, please. Acts 22.
Acts 22.
We must, because there will be a lot of reading, but we have no choice. We will go through them all. So take your time, begin to go from 1.
Men, brethren, and fathers.
This is Shaul, and he's testifying of his conversion. And there are certain things I want to highlight before we can continue. Read.
Hear ye my defense which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence. And he said,
so not only was he a pure-blooded Hebrew, born in Rome, but he also could speak the language plainly. Not like many of us, you are born in the Netherlands, but you are from Congo or Ghana or Suriname or whatever, and you don't speak the language. You only excel in Dutch. He also spoke the Hebrew tongue. So when they heard him address the court in Hebrew, they were quiet. Go ahead.
I am verily a man which am a Jew. Should I read it as it is?
I am verily a man which am a Yahudah. Read.
I verily am a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsis, a city in Sicilia.
A city in Sicilia.
Yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel.
Nevertheless, when I was born, I came and I was brought up in Jerusalem under the feet of the Pharisee called Gamaliel.
and taught according to the perfect manner of the law
And I was taught according to the pure ways of the law.
of the fathers. And I was zealous towards Elohim, as ye all are this day. And I persecuted this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest does bear me witness, and all the estate of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem for to be punished. And it came to pass that as I made my journey and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Shaul, Shaul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Master? And he said, I am Yahushua of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. And they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. And I said, What shall I do, Master? And the Master said unto me, Arise and go into Damascus, and there it shall be told thee of all things which thou art appointed thee to do. And when I could not see for the glory of that light, being led by the hand of them that were with me, I came into Damascus. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law,
And one Ananias, a devout man according to the
law,
go ahead,
having a good report of all the Hebrews which dwelt there, came unto me and stood and said unto me, Brother Saul, receive thy sight. And the same hour I looked up upon him.
So a man who was keeping the law came to him and said, Shaul, receive your sight. Go ahead.
And he said, The Elohim of our fathers has chosen thee, that thou shouldest know his will and see that just one, and shouldest bear the voice of his mouth.
Next slide.
For thou shalt be his witness unto all men of what thou hast seen and heard.
For the role of Shaul, it says, for you will be his witness
Unto all men
of
what thou hast seen and heard.
what thou hast seen and heard. Go ahead.
And now why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized, and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Master. And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance, and saw him saying unto me, Make haste and get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they will not receive thy testimony concerning
Make haste and get thee out of Jerusalem, for those that are in the city will not receive your message. Go ahead.
And I said, Master, they know that I am imprisoned and beat in every synagogue. They know that I am imprisoned and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I also was standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. And he said unto me, Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles.
Depart, for I will send thee far hence unto whom?
Unto the Gentiles.
Go ahead.
And they gave him audience unto this word, and then lifted up their voices and said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. And as they cried out and cast off their clothes and threw dust into the air, the chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Shaul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? And he said, Yea. And the chief captain answered, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Shaul said, But I was free born. Then straightway they departed from him which should have examined him, and the chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands, and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Shaul down and set him before them.
So this was simply for you to understand a bit more about one, his context, how he came and how he converted, and why he was more focused on the Gentiles. Because what you need to understand is that when the Messiah came, he brought a lot of confusion to the masses of Israel. Because when he came to show unto them the perfect way of the law, which they up until that point did not fully understand. So that's why when the Messiah himself came, he was not even able to get more than 80 people that followed him. And when he was about to die, he was left with no one. Because his teaching was so controversial. It was so controversial to the point where they said he was committing blasphemy and he was committing and preaching heresies. So then, after the Messiah departed, he chose of himself apostles. And also of these apostles, they were beaten oftentimes, and the Hebrews of the Sanhedrin would tell them oftentimes, stop preaching about this Messiah of yours, because we only have one Elohim and he cannot die. So the things that you guys are saying is blasphemy. Stop. But these apostles, they remained in Jerusalem and in Israel teaching these things. But what you are forgetting is, as I said already, and then when you read the book of Acts, you will see that the Hebrews were scattered where? All over. But none of the apostles at that time were given the right to leave the nation of Israel. But Elohim understood that other sheep of this fold I must also reach. So then, lo and behold, Apostle Shaul came. And let's read from an old book what is testified of Shaul. This is coming from his father, Benjamin. So this is the Testament of Benjamin from chapter 11, verse 1. Read.
And I shall no longer be called a ravening wolf on account of your ravages, but a worker of Yah, distributing food to them that work what is good.
This is Benjamin prophesying what will happen to his seed in the days that would come. Read.
And I shall rise up from my seed in the latter times.
And in the latter times, there shall rise up from the seed of Benjamin
one beloved of Yah,
one who shall be beloved of Yah,
hearing upon the earth his voice, and a doer of the good pleasure of his will.
And he will be a doer of the good pleasure of his will.
Enlightening with new knowledge all the Gentiles.
Listen. Enlightening with new knowledge
all the Gentiles.
All the Gentiles. Read.
Even the light of knowledge.
Even the light of knowledge.
Bursting in upon Israel for salvation.
And he will burst in. So it will be quite aggressive. Bursting upon Israel in salvation.
And tearing away from them like a wolf.
That is why the sigil of the tribe of Benjamin was the wolf. He said what this one will do, like a wolf, he will tear in at the stalk of Israel and take a piece, go ahead.
And tear it away from them like a wolf.
And then share it with the Gentiles. Read.
And giving to the synagogue of the Gentiles.
Read.
Until the consummation of the age shall he be in the synagogue of the Gentiles.
Until the end of the age shall he be in the synagogue of the Gentiles.
And
Read.
among their rulers.
And amongst their rulers.
As music in the mouth of all, and he shall be inscribed in the holy books.
Listen, and he will be inscribed in the holy books.
Both his work and his word.
Both his work and his word.
And he shall be a chosen one of Elohim forever.
And he will be a chosen one of Elohim forever.
And through them he shall go to and fro as Jacob my father, saying, he shall fill up that which lacks of any of thy tribe.
He shall fill up that which lacketh of thy tribe. Who was Benjamin referring to? He was speaking of Shaul of Tarsis. That is why in the whole of the New Testament, who has written more books than Shaul? No one. Who is quoted more than Shaul in the New Testament? No one. Who do the Gentiles cleave to more than anyone? Shaul. But what it says, and you have to be specific, in that final part, it also says, he will fill up that which lacketh
of thy tribe.
So he had a dual role. And this is where many people, they lose their hair. And they do not understand the role and the mission of Shaul. So I'm still laying the groundwork here. Next slide. Types of Gentiles in the scripture.
So Genesis 10 from 5. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue and after their families in their nations.
So Gentiles, the Strongs, it says H1
471.
So on the right you can see it means Ngoi or Bango, meaning others. And read out all the different people it can apply to.
So reading in the bottom right corner, the outline of biblical usage, it says it's a masculine noun which means nation or people.
So it can either mean nation or it can either mean people.
It means nation or people, usually of non-Hebrew people.
Usually, but not always. So usually of non-Hebrew people.
But also of descendants of Abraham.
But also descendants of Abraham.
Or
of
Israel.
Of Israel. This is shocking. Of Israel, read.
And then it says it can also represent a swarm of locusts or other animals.
So now read Genesis 25:23.
And Yah said unto her.
And Elohim said unto, was it Rebecca?
Two nations
are
in thy womb.
And what is the root word for nation? Strong's H1
471.
The same word that's being applied for
Gentiles.
But now he's saying, listen, two nations are in thy
womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
So when he's speaking of Edom, and when he's speaking about Israel, and he's talking about nations, the root word is still H147. So you can see how the word Gentiles is layered. And you must understand the context that it is speaking of, otherwise you will be confused. So there are two types of Gentiles, as I wrote in the scriptures. One is
the Gentiles, which are the other nations. The word Gentiles and nations bear the same root.
And then there is two,
the Gentiles from the split of Israel.
And this is where people can get mad, but because of my time, I'm just going through them and we'll see what will happen. So next slide, please.
Ezekiel 37 from 16. Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph the stick of Ephraim and for all the house of Israel his companions. And say unto them, thus saith Yah Elohim, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen.
And there you see H1471 again, right? And then continue.
Whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation.
And I will make them one
nation.
And the strong is again H1471. In the land upon the mountains of Israel.
And one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations. Nations.
Neither shall they be divided into two
kingdoms anymore at all.
And there you see the stick, two nations, Elohim will make them one again. Because what you really need to understand is, after the split of Israel, you will see that only the southern kingdom kept the prophets, kept the laws, kept the Torahs, and in some way were still connected to Elohim. But the northern nations of Israel, as they were scattered abroad, they became estranged. So they became also known as the strangers of Israel. Because Elohim there was total silence when it came to the northern part of Israel, to the point where Elohim would have to dispatch prophets coming from the south to sometimes go and speak unto them. So the people that are attentive, they will still remember the topic that we dealt with when we dealt with the 7 church ages. I already explained a bit how that came to play. But so you will see that because the Gentiles, because the Israelites at that time were scattered all over, and not all of them were found within the geographical land mass of Israel anymore, Elohim then had to start sending out apostles all over. And as he was sending out apostles all over, he being wise was like, I'll use one net and catch them both. So how does that play out? Give me the book of Micah. Micah 4.
From 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yah shall be established in the top of the mountains.
But in the last days it will happen that the mountain of Yah
shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it.
And people shall flow. That word people, it means and nations. And nations, H1471, they will flow unto it.
And many nations shall come and say,
And many nations shall come and say,
Come and let us go up to the mountain of Yah,
Come and let us go to the assembly of Yah,
and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob.
and to the house of the Elohim of Jacob.
And he will teach us of his ways.
And it is the Elohim of Jacob who shall teach the nations of his ways.
And we will walk in his path.
And we will walk in his path.
For the law shall go forth of Zion.
Listen, for the very law will go forth from where?
From Zion.
From Zion, from Judah.
And the word of Yah from Jerusalem.
And the word of Elohim must come from Jerusalem. So how does that play out? Psalms 147:19. How in the world will the Gentiles or the other nations receive the precious words of Elohim if Elohim has not spoken unto them?
That's right.
Psalms 147:19.
He shewed his word unto Jacob,
Now Elohim has revealed his words unto Jacob,
his statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
his commandments and his laws unto Israel.
He had not dealt so with any nation.
Elohim has not done this with any other nation.
And as for his judgments,
And as for his laws,
they have not known them.
the nations don't know them.
Praise ye Yah.
This is his glory. This is how Elohim predestined it to be. That the Israelites are the ones that receive directly from Yah. And just like if we would look at it from the context of Israel, just like the lawgivers came from one tribe only, Levi, they were the teachers of the whole nation of Israel. So Elohim has made Israel the tribe of Levi for the world, so that the nation of Israel, they would be the teachers of all the other nations. That's why oftentimes we tell you it makes no sense for someone like Renat Bonki to come to the Bantus and teach them.
Bonk.
It is an abomination.
Wow.
How will a Gentile teach a Hebrew? Are you mad? So they will struggle with prophecies and it will make no sense, because how can you, being a Gentile, teach a Hebrew? You will make up stuff and you will write stories and you will dance and jump around and the prophecies will make no sense. But let a Hebrew take hold of Isaiah, take hold of Obadiah, take hold of Ezekiel, and let him begin to explain. You'll be like, why did I never see it like this? Because it is coming from a Hebrew perspective. So you have to understand how Elohim designed it to be. So we are continuing. Isaiah 49 verse 3.
Before you continue, we had a question.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't really clear. We have a sister that asked, like, Paul, right? Does that mean that he spoke to the Gentiles, which are only to the Gentiles, which are of the split of Israel, or both?
Tell the
type of
sister
Gentiles?
I'm coming.
Okay.
Sister, I'm coming. Good question. I'm coming there. Isaiah 49 and 3.
And he said unto me, Thou art my servant,
Thou art my servant.
O Israel.
Who?
O Israel.
Go ahead.
In whom I will be glorified.
In whom I will be glorified.
And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant,
And he said, is it a light thing? It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up
the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a light.
You see, once again, double mission. You must restore your own people first.
The tribes of Jacob.
And then he says, I will also give thee, Israel, for a light.
To the Gentiles.
To the
Gentiles.
Go ahead.
That thou may be my salvation unto the end of the earth.
So that you may be my salvation unto the very ends of the earth. So, that is why Elohim chose Shaul. And the funny thing is, maybe I will get to that later. If you really study the scriptures carefully, Shaul was not the only one sent to the Gentiles. He's the only one that boldly proclaimed and said it. But when you read the epistle of the apostles and the letters that they are writing and some of the things that they are saying, they also went over. Because Peter himself also was in Rome. So when he wrote the book of 2 Peter, he says, I greet you from Babylon. That was Rome. So they also were going to and fro at later stages. But because it really started with Shaul, you will see that Elohim, in his own infinite wisdom, he only had a contract with Hebrews. So he would not use a Gentile to minister to a Hebrew. Rather, to make sure that the truth was being spoken out, he would use a Hebrew man and then send him out to the other nations to speak of the Elohim of Israel. So that was a bit the role of Shaul, and now we will continue. Let us now then read what Shaul said. Galatians 2:7.
But contrariwise,
and all the images that you are seeing in all the other slides and stuff, you're all seeing black people. And these are not things that we have painted. I don't even know how to paint. All these things are coming from the, what's it called? The book, The Russian Icons. And it is speaking about biblical characters. But back in those days, they still used to draw them black because they knew their colors. Even Mary was also drawn in black. Baby Jesus, as you guys call him, was also painted in black. All these artifacts are still there before they whitewashed it. So Galatians 2:7.
But contrariwise,
when they
saw that the evangel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me,
when they saw that the message, evangel, that the message of the uncircumcision
was committed unto me,
as
the evangel of the circumcision was unto Kepha or Peter. For he that wrought effectually in Kepha to the apostleship of the circumcision,
the same,
was mighty in me towards the Gentiles.
So circumcision means the Israelites, as he's saying it here, and the uncircumcision means the Gentiles. Go ahead.
And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the favor that was given unto me,
and when Yakubu, Kepha, and Yahukanan or Yohani saw, or who seemed to be pillars, they saw the grace that was upon me.
They gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship.
They did what?
They gave unto me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship.
So they approved the ministry of Shaul.
That we should go unto the heathen.
So that we, me, Shaul, and Barnabas should go unto the heathen.
And they unto the circumcision.
And they unto the circumcision. That is why I'm very careful with making statements about Shaul. Because, yeah, it is a tough spot, but some statements cannot be made. Cephas was here, Yahukanan was here, all of them were here, and they gave him the right hand of fellowship. Did they not have the messenger of truth with them? Were they not in line and in sync? But they gave him the right hand of fellowship. So who am I here to speak negatively about Shaul? In what context, what right do I have? So you must be very, very careful, even if it is a tough discussion to have. That's why when I was making this slide, I had no pleasure in nothing it was just, it's messed up. It's messed up. The whole reputation of Shaul, it's messed up. So continue reading.
We also had a question beforehand, but it probably links to what you just said. A brother asked, but Paul was filled with the spirit of Elohim, right? So the things that he said should align with his word, right? And also his moments of advice.
We will get there.
Okay.
We will get there, but these are all good points. So the one from the sister, to who was he ministering? And the other one, Shaul was also filled with the Spirit. So the things which he said should align.
Yeah.
We will get there. Continue reading.
So the next slide talks about Shaul's or Paul's modus operandi.
So we will touch with the sister's question first. This is Shaul's modus operandi. There you see the apostles, all of them black. And so Acts 13:13. Now,
when Paul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and John departing from them returned to Jerusalem.
So Yahuchanan was also where? In Perga and Pamphylia. So they also had fellowship and they were ministering together. Are you reading that? So continue reading.
So when Paul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and John, departing from them, returned to Jerusalem.
You see, he returned, but he was there. And he was not there sleeping and eating McDonald's. He was ministering. So he returned to Jerusalem. Read.
But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Pisidia.
They came to Antioch.
And went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day.
So when they came there, what did Shaul do? He went where?
Into the synagogue
on
the Sabbath day.
Why was he doing that? Who was he hoping to get? And who was he hoping to meet in a synagogue on the Sabbath? Which men of people kept the Sabbath and went to synagogue? Were they not his tribesmen, his fellow kin, Israelites scattered over? So he went there to meet them. Because if he wanted to only meet the Gentiles, why would he just not go to the market? But he went to the place where he knew his people would be found. Continue reading.
He went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. Then Paul stood up and beckoning with his hand said, Men of Israel.
Just to confirm, he said, O ye Gentiles.
Men of Israel.
He came and he beckoned with his hand. He said, Ye men of Israel.
And ye that fear Elohim.
And ye that fear Elohim.
Give audience.
Please listen to me. Continue reading.
So they, this is the same Acts 13, but now verse 4. So they, being sent forth by the set apart Spirit.
No, by their own imagination.
Being sent forth by the set apart Spirit, the Holy Spirit, departed from Seleucia. And from thence they sailed to Cyprus. And when they were at Salamis, they preached the word of Elohim in the synagogue of the Hebrews,
and they
Jews.
also had
John to their minister.
Are you reading that? This is Shaul. So continue reading. Acts 17:1.
Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where a synagogue of the Hebrews.
So when you are reading the book of Thessalonicense or the book of Thessalonica, to who was he speaking to? So when they went and they came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue
of the Hebrews.
Go ahead.
And Shaul, as his manner was.
So this was his manner. This was his custom. So Shaul, as his custom was,
went in unto them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the Scriptures.
You see? 13:44.
And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Elohim.
Now listen where they are making a distinction. When then the Yahudis,
but when the Hebrews saw the multitudes,
they were filled
with envy.
Because they saw not only their own self, but they also saw Gentiles flocking in and listening to the mysteries of Shaul. And they were like, hey, based upon our custom, it is not lawful to give custom things unto swines. So they were like, why are you revealing these mysteries unto the Gentiles also? So continue reading.
They were filled with envy and spake against those things which were spoken by Shaul, contradicting and blaspheming. Then Shaul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary that the word of Elohim should first have been spoken to you.
meaning I was first always sent to you. I was first always sent to you. That is why everywhere I go, wheresoever the jurisdiction of Rome was, I would always seek out a synagogue first and try to have a discussion with you, my people, first. But
it was necessary that the word of Elohim should first have been spoken to you.
But
seeing ye put it from you, and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life,
lo,
we turn to the Gentiles.
Lo,
we turn to the Gentiles.
So, sister, Shaul was ministering to them both. But he would always go to the Hebrews first, minister unto them, and then he would take care of the other nations. Because the children of the house always have the right to eat first. But simply because he was out of the jurisdiction of Israel, he also took on the moniker, the Apostle of the Gentiles. But he was always, if you read the Scriptures very carefully, always ministering to them both. And to confirm that, and to show you that what he's saying and what he's doing is not a contradiction of the Old Testament, give me the book of Deuteronomy.
Chapter 32 from 21.
Before we even go there, the same Shaul quotes Isaiah. So continue reading where he was reading from.
Back to Acts 13, reading from verse 40 and 7. For so has Yah commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou should be for a salvation unto the ends of the earth. So
there Shaul is quoting the Isaiah that we just read. And now apart from Isaiah, Moses also said the same thing. That's what is meant with line upon line, precept upon precept. Deuteronomy 32, verse 21.
They have moved me to jealousy.
They, my people, have made me jealous.
With that which is not Elohim.
By serving something else that is not me.
They have provoked me to anger with their vanity.
They made me angry with their foolishness.
And I will move them to jealousy.
So now I will also make my people jealous
with those which are not a people.
And I will choose me a foolish nation.
I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation.
And I will call them to me. You see, line upon line, precept upon precept. So we are continuing. I hope that the sister's answer is a bit tackled. Question, I'm sorry. So let's... listen to the phone. Okay, so let's continue. So that was the... Okay. So then, the misunderstood
doctrine of Shaul.
Now listen at what Kepha, the one that gave him the right hand of fellowship, listen at what he testifies concerning Shaul. 2 Peter 3 verse 15.
An account that the long suffering of our master is salvation.
Even as
our beloved brother Paul.
No, our behated brother Paul.
Our beloved brother Paul.
Also.
According to the wisdom given unto him.
Had written.
Unto you.
And also.
As also in all his epistles.
Speaking in them.
Of these things.
Which are.
Some things hard to be understood.
Which are.
Some things hard to be understood.
Which they.
That are unlearned and unstable rest.
As they do also.
The other scriptures.
Unto their own
destruction.
You see what he's saying? He's saying, I know that brother Paul is dangerous because he has received certain insights, which sometimes we wonder, like, how? Because we were with the Messiah. When the Messiah was walking around, we were also walking around. Shaul was not even there. But when he begins to speak of the Messiah, some of the things that he releases were like, how did this man know this? Because Shaul himself says, when it comes to my doctrine, he said, no man taught me these things. But it was the angel of Yah who came and revealed unto me the intimacy of the Messiah. So many times when you are reading the story of Shaul, you're like, Shaul had the deep of soul. The book of Romans will crack your head. I think chapters 7, 8, 9. My goodness. I remember, like, it must be the first 10 years. The first 10 years, I could not make sense of chapter 7, 8, 9. The whole dynamic law, grace. I was like, my goodness, what brad deze man. And it is normal. If you are not learned, you'll be like, but is he for the law, or is he against the law, or he's saying not to keep the law, but then he himself always goes to the Sabbath, goes to the synagogue on the Sabbath. He had the law of the Nazarite. He himself went to Jerusalem for the feast days. So why is he saying this and then he's doing something else? So that's why if you read the story of Saul, you'll be like, maybe this guy is schizophrenic. So some of the sayings of Shaul, it is hard to understand, especially if you are unlearned. And many people feel powerless when it comes to the story of Shaul, but we will tackle some. We don't have the time to tackle all. I will always advise you to really look up our channel and then type in, I think it's called, The Falsehood of Christianity, where we tackle also with a lot of the teachings of Shaul, just so that you can get understanding. I think we also had a topic, grace and law or something.
Is the law done away with?
Is the law done away with? We also tackle with most of these things so that you will understand that Shaul is not contradicting. He's just a complicated man. So let's read. The misunderstood doctrine of Shaul. The next slide is the Pauline Christianity or the Pauline theology. This is from secular sources, so read for us, please.
Pauline Christianity or Pauline theology, also Paulism or Paulinity, otherwise referred to as Gentile Christianity, is the theology and form of Christianity which developed from the beliefs and doctrines espoused by the Hellenistic Jewish Apostle Paul through his writings and those New Testament writings traditionally attributed to him. Paul's beliefs were rooted in the earliest Jewish Christianity, but deviated from his Jewish Christianity in their emphasis on inclusion of the Gentiles into God's new covenant and his rejection of circumcision as an unnecessary token of upholding the Mosaic law. Proto-Orthodox Christianity, which is rooted in the first centuries of the history of Christianity, relies heavily on Pauline theology and beliefs and considers them to be amplifications and explanations of the teachings of Jesus. Since the 18th century, a number of scholars have proposed that Paul's writings contain teachings that are different from the original teachings of Jesus and those of the earliest Jewish Christians, as documented in the canonical Gospels, early Acts, and the rest of the New Testament, such as the Epistle of James. So
there I have reference for you. So you see that they have even a term now called Paulism, Paulinity. So that is why we decided to deal with this topic, because you can take Saul's quotes and really mess yourself up, unfortunately. Especially if you don't apply the rule of thumb where what one says must be confirmed by the other. If you don't have that in your head, you will run with what Shaul said and it will mess you up. So you have to at least be learned when it comes to doctrine, so that you can know where to properly put in context the sayings of Shaul. And the next slide, I just took some. The statements like we are not under the law, but we are under grace. We all know how Christians abuse that statement. No man is justified by the law, but man is only justified by the faith in Yahushua. People abuse that statement. Food sacrificed to idols. Shaul said, if your mind is strong, you can eat it. People are like, what? But forgetting that you live in Amsterdam, you go to the Islamic slagerij and you buy shawarma. You buy chicken. You forget that when the Islamist butchers the meat, he says, Allahu Akbar. But that Allahu Akbar, Allah is not Elohim. So that Allahu Akbar is who? And then you go home, you put you put you put paprika powder, you put cayenne You put kayalo powder, you put thyme, and then you eat the meat. But the Islamist says Allahu Akbar. You go to Surias, you go to the Indian place. You're like, hey, the sauce is duh. But you forget that the Indian place is baptized by Lord Shiva. And you eat it, you're like, hey, it was lekker. And then when you finish, you you go to Mecca. Because you think that these Edomites, they don't have a God they serve. So you see how if you're not careful, you will mess yourself up. You will mess yourself up. So we'll try to touch some. But first there is a source, and if you want to know all of the points where people are hammering on Shaul, I gave you the link, answeringchristianity.com. I think these people, they have like more than 60 things against Shaul. And when you read the thing, most of them are out of context. It is so yammer. Most of them are out of context. But some are like, Shaul, it is yammer. So, read this quote. There was a slowly growing chasm
between Christians and Jews.
Chasm simply means a bridge, a space. So there was a slowly growing space, rift, between Christians and Yahudis rather than
a sudden split.
Even though
it is commonly thought that Paul established a Gentile church.
You see how it was commonly thought that it was Shaul who
established a Gentile church.
It took
centuries for a complete break to manifest.
So you see, put it all on Shaul. Put everything on. That is what they are saying. So, and this is, especially when it comes to salvation, you will just emphasize especially this one, because this is where a lot of people mess up. So I wrote down, is the law done away with? Romans 6:15.
What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law but under grace?
Elohim
forbid.
But listen, this is already where the contradiction is. And if you are not learned, you will mess yourself up. He says, what then? Shall we?
Shall we sin
because
we are not under the law?
That statement already is as we say, is Vanzin. What then? Shall we sin if we are?
Because we are not under the law, but under grace, Elohim forbid.
Elohim forbid. But at the same time, if there is no law, how can you sin? If there is no law, how can you sin? Because the Bible clearly says, for sin is the
transgression of the law.
So if that which you transgress is out of the way, how can you transgress? If I want to beat up someone, that person has to be in front of me, and when I beat him up, it means I've hit him. Now, if that person is not there and I'm beating up the air, am I still beating that person? No. So if there is nothing you can transgress, because there is no rule saying you are not allowed to do something, how can you then accuse me of sinning? And the same Shaul, who people claim was against the law or said the law was done away with, he kept on saying, repent and stop sinning. So was Shaul schizophrenic, or was he simply misunderstood? So when he says the law is done away with, right? What law is he then referring to? Because as I try to make something on the right, you see that there are around 613 laws in the Bible. Around. I was not there to count. Around. Yeah? And these 613 laws are broken down in these 5 categories. So we have laws pertaining to the moral law. Yeah? Or the royal law. Then we have laws pertaining to the judgmental laws. All the laws that deal with, if you have done this, you must be punished, you must be done this. Those are judgmental laws. Then we have laws that deal with the sacrificial laws. Meaning when someone has broken the moral laws, judgment laws must follow to punish him. But the sacrificial laws can then come to atone for that person. laws dealing with the shedding of blood of animals to forgive one's sins. Then we have laws dealing with the ceremonies, the feast days of Elohim, the feast of Passover, the feast or the Day of Atonement. All the things that has to do with ceremony is then categorized under the ceremonial laws. And then we have the dietary laws, the things you are allowed to eat and not eat. Not eating of swine's flesh, of pork, of shrimps. All these things are contained within the dietary laws. So all the laws in the Bible will be categorized under one of these 5. So when Shaul said the law, singular, is done away with, what is he speaking of? And this is where, if you're not reading critically, you will mess yourself up. Because you will draw conclusions based upon your own comfort. That's the problem with the teachings of Shaul and why many people mess themselves up. They don't want to do anything. So they use Shaul to justify their laziness. Whilst at the same time, Shaul did not say what the people are attributing him of saying. So continue reading then.
Romans 10 from 4. For the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness.
This also makes people crazy. But if you understand, you understand. It is perfect sense when he says the Messiah is the end of the law. It makes perfect sense to me. But people are like, the Messiah, what? He's the end of the law. So it means when we're in the Messiah, then we don't have to keep the law, for the righteousness is in the Messiah. You are speaking tongues. So continue reading.
For the Messiah is the end of the law for righteousness.
Which is correct.
To everyone that believes.
Which is correct.
For Moses describes the righteousness which is of the law.
Which is correct.
That the man which does those things shall live by them.
Which is correct. Because if you were unrighteous, you would have to keep the law of Moses to become righteous again. And Moses said, if a man had sinned, let him bring a sheep, come to the temple, confess his sins, so that he may be forgiven. That forgiveness then makes you righteous, and it is the keeping of that law that holds you and keeps you alive. So the Messiah being the end of the law, it makes perfect sense. But we will get there. So 3:18.
Romans 3:18. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise, but Yah gave it to Abraham by promise.
Wherefore then
serves the law. It was added because of transgression.
So the seed
should come to whom the promise was made.
And it was ordained
by angels in the hand of a mediator.
Read.
Now a mediator is not a mediator of one, but Yah is one. Is the law then against the promises of Yah? By no means. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law.
Read.
But the scripture has concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yahushua the Messiah might be given to them that believe.
Yes.
But before faith came, we were kept under the law.
Yes.
Shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed.
Wherefore
the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto the Messiah.
So the law was a temporary fix. The law, this specific law, was a temporary fix to keep the angels and all the things a bit in balance until the Messiah was to come, because he was the perfect propitiation for sin. Read.
That we might be justified by faith.
But after that,
faith is come, we are no longer under a schoolmaster.
For ye are all
the children of Yah by faith in the Messiah Yahushua.
So many people are still reading this and they are so confused. And I understand it is normal, but we will try to explain to you what law Shaul is talking about, which is done away with and which is replaced by the Messiah. Next slide. So then if you look at the next slide, you see the same drawing, but this time around, we still have the same 5 categories. Only when it comes to the sacrificial law, I have hoe zeg je doorstrepen? No, hoe zeg je doorstrepen? Cross through. Hoe zeg je doorstrepen? Anyways, I think I crossed through the sacrificial part, and then I wrote in red the Messiah. So the Messiah then removes, or the Messiah then takes away the sacrificial laws, and he himself then becomes a fulfillment of the sacrificial laws. What is meant by that? The same Shaul, who you are saying, he said the law is done away with, will now come and explain what he means. The book of Hebrews, 10 verse 1.
For the law having a shadow of good things to come.
Just like as our sister Talisa said, many people use that and they said, yeah, it is a schaduw van dingen die komen zullen. Of course, Shaul is saying for the law being a shadow
of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect.
That is what he said in Romans, that you will not be justified by the law. That is what he meant, and he's explaining it now. That when the people would come in those days, giving these sacrifices, it was not able to make them perfect. Why?
For then would they not have ceased to be offered.
For then Elohim would not tell people to stop doing it at a certain point in time. Read.
Because that the worshippers once purged should have had no more conscience of sins. But in those sacrifices there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins.
Listen, so he's telling you that there was a fault discovered there, because it is not possible that the blood of a sheep or the blood of a goat can be equaled to a human soul. So therefore, every time a human soul would commit sin, and then he would transcribe the sin to a goat, it was a symbol, but the value in the spirit was not equal. So therefore, then it was a temporarily fixed, but the angels themselves were not even satisfied with this one. So there was a need for a better sacrifice, which was equal to a human soul to be preserved. It is just like, take yourself for instance. If you have a son or a human being, you are a father, and then you see how your son dies, and you want to act and revenge. Will you be satisfied if the culprit that killed your son comes and says, I'm sorry that I killed your son? To show my atonement and my sorry, I took one of my sheep and I killed it to replace your son. Will you be happy with that? You will be like, is my son's life in your sight equal to a goat or a sheep? You will be satisfied if you said, no, I want a life for a life. My son for your son. So that he's saying it was not possible that the sacrifice of bullocks and rams
should take away sins.
Wherefore,
when he came into the world,
so then when the Messiah came,
he said, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not.
Bullocks and rams, Elohim, you were not pleased with.
But a body.
Therefore you prepared a vessel. You prepared me.
Hast thou prepared me.
Lo, I come.
I come in the volume of the books, lo, it is written of me, to do thy will, O Yah.
Read.
Above when he said, sacrifice and offerings and burnt offerings and offerings for sins thou wouldest not, neither had pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. Then said he, lo, I come to do thy will, O Yah. He takes away the first.
You see, he's explaining himself perfectly. It's just that you people don't want to hear. He's explaining himself, saying, what I meant was that
he takes away the first.
Not I, Shaul, or someone else. He, Elohim himself, takes away the first.
That he may establish the second.
By
the which will we are set apart.
By the will of the second. Meaning the sacrifice of the Messiah. We are now set apart.
Through the offering of the body of Yahushua.
The
Messiah.
And no more of goats and rams.
That's right.
So when he says, guys, the law is done away with, no man will be justified by the law, but men will only be justified by the faith in the Messiah. This is what he means.
Yes.
That now you don't have, when you have sinned, you don't have to go take a sheep and just imagine you have sinned. Now you have to go to the Islamic, you buy a living goat. You have to kill the goat in your living room, can you imagine the mess? And then when you kill the goat, you are like, I'm sorry. Elohim is saying, stop doing these things. Now when you have sinned, you go to a minister of Elohim. You speak to Elohim. You say, I'm sorry that I sinned. Please forgive me. And when you say that, Elohim will then apply the blood of his son that was shed, and he will cover you, and your sins will be forgiven if you continue walking in the obedience that Yeshua indeed shed his blood for you. That is what Shaul means when he says the one is done away with, but we are now living in the faith of the Messiah. That is all he means. So when he says the law is done away with, all the other 4 parts of the law are still intact, but the sacrificial law has been updated by the blood of the Messiah. That is all that Shaul means. And this is where 99% of the people completely go off. And they say, yeah, Shaul said we are no more under the law, yet he himself kept the Sabbath. So is he a hypocrite? Because he spoke to Peter. He said, if I build up the things I break down, I make myself a transgressor. So if the law is done away with, why did Shaul keep the Sabbath? Why did Shaul keep the feast of Passover? Why did he keep the law of the Nazarite? Why did the same Shaul said in the book of Romans, I speak according to the law, that if a woman had a man and she marries another, she committed what? Why did he say that? Why did Shaul say, I suffer not a woman to teach or to usurp authority over the man? For so also saith the law. So do not let people misuse the statement of Shaul because some of his sayings are difficult to understand, because they only pick the sweet parts of Shaul. But people forget that he was also very extreme. No one else said, do not let women speak. Only Shaul said it in the New Testament, and then he referred to the law. Who else said that? But why do these ministers not use Shaul when it comes to women preachers? So are you seeing the hypocrisy? The same minister that said, yeah, Shaul said we are not under the law, is the same minister who will then use his wife and call his wife apostle. But it was the same Shaul who said, let the bishop be the husband of
one wife.
And even that one is. But he said it. He said the head of every woman is
the man.
And the head of the man is
the Messiah.
Any woman that prophesied with her head uncovered and dishonored her own
head.
But that minister in the church, not only has he made his wife a prophetess and an apostle, she's also prophesying with her head uncovered. So you pick and choose what part of Shaul you will use. And because of you now, Shaul is despised amongst many. So wheresoever he is, he looks down and he weeps daily from, wow, what have I said? Because these people are mad, they lie in my name. They lie in his name. So people, that is when he says the law is done away with. Ask your pastor, which law are you referring to? Because there are instances in the Bible where Shaul speaks of the law and he keeps them. And if he's not able to explain it, then know that he's just messing around. And ask him then, Pastor, but what do you say about women preachers? Why does your wife, why do sisters preach? Because Shaul also said, and then you will listen, you will hear what he will say. No, you know, in those days, Shaul was speaking to the people of Corinthians, and around that time, the women were very rebellious. Pastor, what is your source? This was a spirit told me. So these things make no sense. But because of time, we are continuing. So just to show you that when Shaul said that the blood of the Messiah was to replace the sacrificial laws, because, and here it comes, don't just believe Shaul because Shaul said it, because we told you already, it must be line upon line precept upon precept. If no other ancient prophet has told us these things, then do not believe Shaul. So, where can we find precedent in the Old? Give me the book of Isaiah 53 verse 5.
Isaiah 53 verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions.
But he, the Messiah, was wounded for our transgressions.
He was bruised for our iniquity.
He was broken, bruised for our sins.
The chastisement of our peace was upon him.
The beating that resulted in our peace, he received.
And with his stripes we are healed.
And with his stripes on the side, we received our healing.
All we like sheep have gone astray.
For all of us like sheep went astray.
We have turned everyone to his own way.
We all turned to our own ways.
And Yah has laid on him.
And Elohim laid on him, just like the Israelites would lay on the goat. Elohim laid on him
the iniquity of us all.
The sin of us all. So is Shaul inventing a new doctrine? No. I think even if you read the book of Zechariah 10:12, where he says, and they will look upon me whom they have pierced. So Shaul he's not preaching a new doctrine. This is Old Testament. This is Old Testament. He's simply explaining what was meant. So that is what is meant with the law is done away with, or is replaced, or when he says we are not under the law, but we are under grace. Now, the other part which I want us to deal with, and then we will finish, because these are really the things that mess up a lot of Christians. All the other you can research in your own time. The replacement theory. I think 7 minutes we're done. This one is also important, because people are like, Shaul was the founder of the New Testament church. Shaul told us the Jews are replaced everywhere you see. That's what ministers say. Everywhere you see the word Jew and Israel in the Bible, replace them with the church. which is a lie. But listen at what Shaul said. Galatians 3:28.
There is neither Jew nor Greek.
People use this.
There's neither bond nor free. There's neither male nor female, for ye are all one in the Messiah, Yahushua.
But at the same time, the same Shaul who says there is neither Jew nor Greek, neither bond nor free, says, servants, obey your masters. Is he schizophrenic? And then the same Shaul who says there is neither female nor male in the Messiah said, let not a woman speak or teach or try to be the boss over a man. Is he schizophrenic? The same Shaul who says there's neither Jew nor Greek says that the mysteries of Elohim came to the Jews first and then to the Greeks. The same Shaul who said there's neither woman nor man then says, and Elohim will receive you, and you will be his sons and his daughters. The same one who says there is no difference says the head of every woman is the man. So therefore let every man pray with his head uncovered, but let every woman pray with her head covered. So what is wrong? The thing that is wrong is you have to understand the context. Otherwise you will mess yourself up, especially when it comes to the sayings of Shaul. So we are continuing. Romans 1:16.
For I am not ashamed of the glad tidings of the Messiah, for it is the power of Yah unto salvation to everyone that believes.
To who?
To the Jew first.
And also
to the Greek.
But there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek.
To the Jew first.
But there's no difference. To the Yahudi
first.
Just like he said in the book of Acts, I was first sent to you, but because you will not listen, lo, I turn to the Gentiles. He would always go to the Yahudi first. Go ahead.
Romans 3:1. What advantage then has the Hebrew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way.
No, there's no difference.
Much every way.
So he's telling you there is great advantage of being a Hebrew. So do not let them tell you, yeah, Hebrews are replaced with Christians. It is a lie. Because he's saying the advantage is much. Read.
Every way.
Every way.
Chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of Yah.
So do you see how he keeps the law? He's now referring to the book of Psalms, where David said, Elohim reveals his words unto Israel. Unto the other nation he does not so. Shaul is now saying much every way, because unto them, the Yahudis, the Israelites, were committed the very oracles
of Yah.
Continue reading.
Romans 11 from 1. I say then, has Yah cast away his people? By no means.
For I
also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
Read.
Yah has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Know you not what the scripture said of Elijah, how he makes intercession to Yah against Israel, saying, Yah, they have killed thy prophets and digged down the altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what says the answer of Yah unto him?
Listen.
I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so then at this present time also there is a remnant according to the election of favor.
So pay attention now. What you're reading here is, it says according to the election of
favor.
In your Bible, it says according to the election of grace. So when Christians boast, and like the Bible said, we are not under the law but under grace. The Jews are under the law, but we the Christians are under grace. And then they say Shaul said it. Next time around when they say that, tell them you are lying. Because the first time Shaul said there was an election of grace, he never was speaking about Gentiles. He was speaking about the remnant of Israel that will obtain the grace. You see? So grace is applied to the Israelites based upon Shaul's teachings. So they are, you see how they lie so much in this man's name. It's so pathetic. But continue reading.
Even so then at this present time also there is a remnant according to the election of favor.
Just say grace so that they understand. Continue reading.
According to the election of grace. And if by grace.
Listen now. If by grace.
That it is no more of works.
You see, this is what they use, right? If by grace, it is no longer of works.
Otherwise, grace is no more grace.
No, let the Jews give their works. The law is for the Jews. We the Christians, we have grace. But now you see, Shaul is speaking about grace, but he's speaking about the Israelites, that they are the ones that will obtain this grace. Do you see how they lie? So continue reading. For it, if it is by grace, then no more works. But
otherwise, grace is no more grace.
Okay.
But if it be of works, then it is no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work.
So when you see that, you're like, hey, it would buffer of so, because what Shaul is saying. But the thing is, it is plain and simple. It is plain and simple. Why is it plain and simple? Just continue reading.
Ezekiel 36 from 22.
This is where it becomes plain and simple. Therefore, Elohim is now explaining.
Therefore say unto the house.
Therefore say unto the house
of Israel
that are scattered abroad.
Thus saith the sovereign Yah.
This said Elohim, who is sovereign. Sovereign means he does not need to explain himself. He likes who he likes. He hates who he hates. Read.
I do not this for your sakes.
I will not save you for your sakes.
O house of Israel.
Meaning, I will not save you because of your works. Because you have no works. Read.
But for my set apart name's
but
sake.
Simply because of my name that you carry.
Which ye have profaned among the heathen.
Which you have polluted amongst the heathen.
Whither ye went.
Whither ye went. So that is what it means when Shaul said, ye that are a remnant of Israel, you will not be saved because of your works. It is grace, meaning it is Elohim who has chosen you simply because of his own heart. Because if it was based upon merit, that you've earned it, what did you earn for the Messiah to die? He did it out of his own love. So therefore, those that will accept his love will get it. But the fact that you are able to receive of his love, it is mercy. Because Elohim was not compelled to do it. He did it out of his own free will. That's where people mess up. Grace is given and is meant for the Hebrews. It is grace that we are now able to walk in the newness of life, because actually all of us would have been condemned. But Elohim now gave us a second chance through the Messiah to be restored unto him. And that second chance is what is known as grace. What many people don't understand, and then they coin it to Christians and they mess around, but that is not biblically sound. But what is being said here, Ezekiel confirms it, and that is what Shaul was referring to. You take from the old and you see where the principal teaching is coming from. And what Shaul simply was doing is he was explaining it a bit more in plain language. So people, conclusion.
Shaul was not a lawbreaker.
He
himself kept the law.
Due to his role
As a messenger to the Gentiles, he tried to make the transition to the Gentiles somewhat smooth by not putting too many restrictions on them.
It's just like this. Do we all remember Moses? Right? He had obtained the law, right? Marry a wife, be with that wife. But at a certain period, he saw hey, many of the women were being killed because of the law of marriage. Because many of them were coming into marriage and they were not even virgins. So they were being slaughtered by the day. So the Messiah came and said, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, said you are allowed to put them away. But from the beginning, it was not so. So you see, sometimes a person or a messenger can try to help people out. Can try to help people out by slowly introducing them to the ways. But he knows so much. But he's like, hey, if I say all the things now, I may lose some of the followers. So I will slowly introduce the things as it pertains to the ways of Yah. But it is just so unfortunate that when Shaul was giving instructions that when the Gentiles come in, don't let them bother many things. Let them just be careful with the eating of blood and stuff. And do not let us put more burdens on them. That does not mean that Shaul was against the law. Because in one point, he told people, it's not the circumcision that really matters, but the circumcision of the heart, which is true. But at the same time, it does not mean he was against circumcision, because he himself went and he circumcised one of his disciples when he knew that he was going towards Jerusalem. So you see, he was put in a very difficult spot and he was trying to maneuver. Because you can go somewhere and proclaim the truth of Elohim and they can kill you if there is no wisdom being applied. So you see, he was going through a difficult time. But Shaul was not a lawbreaker as the people coined him to be. So the third point, this eventually backfired.
And Paul has become the most controversial biblical character, second only to the Messiah himself.
Point 4.
Many false doctrines draw their inspiration from the misunderstood text of Paul.
Unfortunately, no matter what Paul said
or did not say, keep the laws of Elohim to the best of your abilities, because faith without works is dead.
Take what is supported
by the other apostles and prophets and reject everything else that is not sound doctrine, even if it came from Paul or any other person.
That is wherewith I would like to conclude. It was a bit much and a bit over the place, but this was the best that we can do now.
Before you round off, sorry.
Yeah.
The same brother, I don't think he really heard an answer to his question.
Okay.
So maybe you could So tell your question, tell your answer once again. Sorry. So his question was, but Paul was filled with the spirit of Elohim, right? So the things that he said should align with his word, and his moments of advice should also align with the word of Elohim. Could you maybe tell your answer on that question once again?
Okay, so can he maybe be specific, like when he says the things that he said should align, so like should align with his advice, right? So which advice? Because he gave many. Which is he referring to the advice where he said, I advise men not to marry, to stay single, for example? Is that what he's speaking of? Because even that also, it is not a contradiction, because he's saying, and this one I speak by permission. This said I and not the Lord, but I speak by permission. That, seeing the days we are living, it's expedient for a man not to marry, because if he marries, he will be dealing with the things of the world much. And many of the brothers that are married, please ask them in private. For hey, hoe gaan dingen nu dat je getrouwd bent and stuff? Do you still have that focus, or are you having some troubles in the flesh? And they will tell you, hey, you have to be solid before you marry, otherwise you will jump. So when Shaul says that, I'm like, you are a wise man. He's not, that does not mean he's contradicting. He's giving you his advice based upon life. You can take it and not take it, but he's not placing a commandment on you. So what advice is he specifically like referring to?
Yeah, so brother, maybe you could put that in the comment section. This is the end of today's episode as well, but please let us know, maybe through private message or in the comment section, and we'll see what you can answer. I did see that he did add, why would someone advise something that is not aligned with the one that you are speaking on behalf of? It's like advising people to eat swine flesh when hungry, knowing it's not allowed. I'm not sure if that helps you any bit, and otherwise we would have to wait.
Maybe he's referring to the circumcision part. It may be that but I just explained that one.
Yeah.
Maybe he's referring to the circumcision part, or maybe he's referring, as I said, to the part where he says about the eating of flesh, the eating of meat given to idols. Maybe he's referring to. I think he missed
it because you literally touched the marriage part.
You
touched the eating of food sacrificed to idols.
But maybe also he's referring to where Shaul said, "You observe days and months. I'm afraid of you." Maybe.
Yeah, there are many types of context. So, brother,
but even all of that within their context, in their proper context, he's not like directly opposing the Torah. He's simply, as I said, the guy was a major. Things were common sense to him, which were not common sense to many people. So when he's saying you observe days and months, people immediately mean, but it means don't keep the law. Yeah. But for the same time, it can also mean you observe days and months like Christmas and whatever. That can also be what he meant, because he's not saying don't keep the Sabbath.
Yeah.
You see, so it really depends on the context. So maybe the brother can be more precise. And if we are not able to deal with it now because we are at the end of our time, he can still comment on it, and then we can either message him privately or we can tackle it next time. Yeah. But please, brother, try to specify, and then we will look at it.
And also re-listen, because I think you touched upon many of the answers.
That's a lot,
So thank you. Was that it, Minister?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that you really took something out of the message of today. Know that we have many messages linked to the topics of today. The minister already mentioned we have law and grace, the falsehood of Christianity. We also spoke many times about Shaul and his teachings, and we would really like to know what you also took out of today's message. So please feel free to comment. Feel free to send us a private message as well if you have other questions that we can also help you along. Know that you can revisit this and older messages either on YouTube. We have different playlists, and also on our SoundCloud. Next week we will dive into a new topic still related to the theme We Are Deceived, so keep an eye on our social media to know what that topic will be. This was the Hour of Restoration, coming to you live from Amsterdam every Sabbath from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Thank you for tuning in.
Draw near as we worship you. Our hearts are open. Fill us with you. Come draw near as we worship you. Our hearts are open. Fill us with you. Come draw near as we worship you. Our hearts are open. Fill us with you. Come draw near as we worship you. Our hearts are open. Fill us till we overflow. Where the weak's made whole, and you take control in the overflow. Fill us till we overflow. Where the weak's made whole, and you take control in the overflow. Come draw near as we worship you. Our hearts are open. Fill us with you. Come draw near as we worship you.